What if I told you that the fat wrapped around your organs right now is actually easier to burn than the fat on your hips? I know, it sounds backwards. We've been taught that belly fat is the most stubborn fat on the body, the last to go, the hardest to lose. But here's the shocking truth. Visceral fat, the dangerous fat hiding deep inside your abdomen, wrapping around your liver, your pancreas, your heart, is metabolically active. It wants to burn. It wants to leave. And when you know how to flip the right switches, it melts faster than almost any other fat on your body. I'm Dr. Leonid Kim. Today, I'm going to show you the fastest science-backed way to shrink visceral fat. Not the slow, frustrating way. Not the eat less, move more advice you've heard 1,000 times. The actual biological shortcuts your body is waiting for. We're covering 6 powerful insights. And number 4? It's the one thing almost nobody talks about, yet research shows it can accelerate visceral fat loss by up to 30% when done correctly. If you've been fighting that hard, round belly that won't budge no matter what you do, this video is for you. Let's get into it. Here's what most people don't realize. Not all body fat is created equal. The fat under your skin, the stuff you can pinch on your arms, your thighs, your hips, that's subcutaneous fat. It's annoying. It affects how you look in clothes, but from a health perspective, it's relatively harmless. In fact, some research suggests it might even be protective. But visceral fat? That's a completely different beast. Visceral fat sits deep inside your abdominal cavity. It wraps around your liver like a python. It creeps around your pancreas. It releases inflammatory chemicals directly into your bloodstream 24 hours a day, like a toxic factory that never shuts down. Think of it as an internal fire, a smoldering blaze that keeps your body in a constant state of low-grade inflammation. And here's the surprising part. You can have a relatively normal body weight and still have dangerous levels of visceral fat. It's called TOFI, thin outside, fat inside. I've seen it in patients who look slim in clothes but have livers swimming in fat. Their blood work tells the real story. So why does visceral fat accumulate in the first place? The short answer, insulin. When insulin levels stay elevated because of too many refined carbohydrates, too much sugar, too frequent eating, your body gets the signal to store fat. And visceral fat is the most insulin-responsive fat depot in your body. It grows fast. But here's the key insight. Because it's so metabolically active, it also shrinks fast when you change the signals. That's what we're doing today, changing the signals. Let's start with the fastest lever you can pull. And I mean today, right now. Most people get this wrong. They focus entirely on what they eat. Low carb, low fat, keto, paleo. And while food quality absolutely matters, the when might be even more important for visceral fat specifically. Here's the mechanism. Every time you eat, you spike insulin. Even protein spikes insulin to some degree. And when insulin is elevated, your body is in storage mode. It cannot burn fat. It's physically impossible. Insulin is like a switch. When it's up, fat burning is off. When it's down, fat burning turns back on. Now here's what most people don't realize. If you're eating 3 meals plus snacks from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., your insulin switch is barely ever in the off position. 14 hours of elevated insulin. Every single day, year after year. No wonder that visceral fat keeps growing. The solution? Time-restricted eating, also called intermittent fasting. But I'm not talking about extreme 48-hour fasts. I'm talking about a simple, sustainable eating window. Research published in the journal Cell Metabolism showed that when overweight adults restricted their eating to an 8-hour window, say 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., they lost significantly more visceral fat than a control group eating the exact same number of calories spread throughout the day. Same calories, different timing. Dramatically different results. This changes everything because it means you don't have to starve yourself. You don't have to count every calorie. You just have to give your body long enough stretches without food so insulin can drop and your body can finally access that visceral fat for fuel. Most people get this wrong. They think fasting means suffering. But within a week or two, most people find they're less hungry, more focused, and, here's the kicker, their belly starts deflating. Not because they're eating less, but because their body is finally burning what it stored. If you do nothing else from this video, try this. Pick an 8-hour eating window. Stick to it for 2 weeks. Watch what happens to your waistline. Here's the surprising part. You can be doing almost everything right and still sabotage your visceral fat loss with one innocent-looking habit. Liquid sugar. I'm talking about sodas, sweetened coffees, energy drinks, fruit juices, even the ones marketed as natural or no sugar added. And yes, I'm talking about smoothies with 5 bananas and a cup of honey. Here's why this matters so much for visceral fat specifically. When you drink sugar, it hits your liver faster than almost any other form of calories. There's no fiber to slow it down, no chewing to start the digestive process. It floods your bloodstream, spikes insulin, and because your liver is the first stop, it gets overwhelmed. Your liver can only process so much sugar at once. When it's overloaded, it converts the excess into fat. And where does that fat go first? You guessed it, right back into your abdominal cavity as visceral fat. A study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that people who consumed sugar-sweetened beverages daily had 27% more visceral fat over 6 years compared to non-drinkers. 27% from a drink. Most people get this wrong. They think fruit juice is healthy because it comes from fruit. But here's the truth. An 8-ounce glass of orange juice has the sugar of about 3 oranges, with none of the fiber. Your body treats it like soda. Even healthy coffee drinks can contain 50 grams of sugar. That's more than a can of Coke. And you're drinking it before 10 a.m., setting your insulin switch to store for the entire morning. If you're serious about shrinking visceral fat fast, eliminate liquid sugar completely. Water, black coffee, unsweetened tea. That's it. Your liver will thank you. Your waistline will show it. Now we're getting into the hacks that almost nobody uses. And this one is so simple, so effective, that you'll be angry nobody told you sooner. A 10 to 15-minute walk after eating. Not a jog, not a workout, just a walk. Around the block, up and down your hallway, whatever you can do. Here's the mechanism. When you eat, glucose enters your bloodstream. Your muscles are one of the biggest consumers of glucose in your body. But here's the thing. Muscle contraction doesn't require insulin to absorb glucose. When you walk, your muscles literally pull sugar out of your blood through a completely different pathway. This means lower insulin spikes, less fat storage signal, and more of that glucose gets used as fuel instead of being converted to visceral fat. Research from Diabetes Care showed that a 15-minute post-meal walk reduced blood sugar spikes by up to 35% compared to sitting. 35% from a walk. But here's what most people don't realize. The timing matters enormously. A walk 2 hours after your meal is good. A walk 10 minutes after your meal? Dramatically better. Because you're catching that glucose while it's still peaking, you're redirecting it before your liver has a chance to turn it into fat. This changes everything because it means you don't need a gym membership. You don't need special equipment. You don't need an hour of cardio. You just need to move your body for 10 minutes after you eat. Most people get this wrong. They eat a big dinner, sit on the couch, and wonder why their belly won't shrink. Meanwhile, that glucose is circulating, insulin is sky high, and their body is in maximum storage mode. Try this for 1 week. 3 meals, 3 walks, 20 to 30 minutes total per day. Watch your energy improve. Watch your digestion improve. And watch that visceral fat start melting. Alright? This is the one I've been building up to, and I need you to pay close attention. We've talked about eating windows. We've talked about cutting liquid sugar. We've talked about walking after meals. These are powerful, but there's something else, something you can apply directly to your skin, that research suggests can accelerate visceral fat loss by improving circulation, reducing inflammation, and supporting the metabolic changes that happen deep inside your body. I know how this sounds. A cream that burns fat? We've all seen those scammy ads. But I'm not talking about a cream. I'm talking about a specific cold-pressed natural oil that has been used in traditional medicine for thousands of years. And modern science is finally catching up to what ancient healers knew. Here's what most people don't realize. Your skin is not just a barrier. It's a delivery system. When you apply certain compounds to your skin, they penetrate into your subcutaneous tissue, improve local blood flow, and from there influence deeper metabolic processes. It's not magic. It's physiology, but I'm not going to just blurt out the name, because if I do, you'll run to the store, buy the cheapest, most processed version, rub it on once, feel nothing, and declare it doesn't work. And then you'll miss out on something that could genuinely accelerate your results. So let me explain the mechanism first. Then I'll tell you exactly how to use it. Then, and only then, I'll reveal the name. This oil contains compounds that do 3 critical things for visceral fat loss. First, it reduces inflammation. Remember that internal fire we talked about? Visceral fat is inflammatory. It releases cytokines that keep your body in a stressed, fat-storing state. This oil contains thymoquinone, a powerful anti-inflammatory compound that helps cool that fire. Second, it improves microcirculation. Your visceral fat doesn't just sit there, it's fed by blood vessels. When circulation improves, metabolic waste gets cleared faster. Nutrients get delivered more efficiently, and the hormonal environment in your abdominal cavity starts shifting. Third, it supports insulin sensitivity. Some animal studies and early human trials suggest compounds in this oil may help improve how your cells respond to insulin. Better insulin sensitivity means less fat storage signal, more fat burning signal. Now, how to use it? You need therapeutic grade, cold pressed, unrefined oil, not the cheap stuff in the cooking aisle. The active compounds are delicate. Heat processing destroys them. How much? About 1 teaspoon. Enough to cover your entire abdominal area in a thin layer. When? Twice daily, morning and night. Morning application supports circulation and metabolic activity throughout the day. Night application works with your body's natural repair cycle during sleep. How to apply? Warm it slightly between your palms. Massage it into your abdomen using circular motions, clockwise, following your digestive tract. This isn't just about absorption. The massage itself stimulates lymphatic drainage and blood flow. Don't rush it. Spend 3 to 5 minutes. Common mistakes people make. They buy the processed version and wonder why nothing happens. They apply it once and give up. Or they use it while still eating processed sugar and drinking soda, expecting the oil to outwork a terrible diet. It won't. This is an accelerator, not a magic eraser. Now, the name. The oil is black seed oil, Nigella sativa, used in ancient Egyptian tombs, referenced in religious texts across multiple traditions. And modern research? A 2021 systematic review in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology found that black seed oil supplementation significantly reduced body weight, waist circumference, and inflammatory markers in people with metabolic syndrome. But here's the key. Topical application may offer additional benefits by targeting the abdominal area directly, improved local circulation, reduced skin and subcutaneous inflammation, and potentially influence on the deeper visceral fat through improved metabolic signaling. If you combine black seed oil application with the eating window, the sugar elimination, and the post-meal walks, you're hitting visceral fat from every angle, inside and out. This one surprises people, but it's absolutely critical. You can have the perfect diet, the perfect exercise routine, the perfect oil application. But if your sleep is broken, your visceral fat will fight you every step of the way. Here's the mechanism. During deep sleep, your body releases growth hormone. Growth hormone is one of the most powerful fat-burning hormones you have. It preserves muscle. It mobilizes fat. It repairs tissues. And it's released primarily during slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage. But here's what most people don't realize. Poor sleep doesn't just reduce growth hormone. It increases cortisol. It increases ghrelin, the hunger hormone. It decreases leptin, the fullness hormone. It makes you crave sugar and refined carbs. It makes your cells more insulin resistant. In other words, one bad night of sleep creates the perfect metabolic storm for visceral fat accumulation. Research from the University of Chicago showed that when healthy adults were restricted to 5.5 hours of sleep for 2 weeks, they lost 55% less fat and felt significantly hungrier than when they slept 8.5 hours. Same diet, same calories, but their bodies behaved completely differently. This changes everything because it means sleep isn't just recovery, it's an active fat loss tool. Your most productive fat-burning hours aren't in the gym. They're between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. when growth hormone peaks and your body is in repair mode. Most people get this wrong. They sacrifice sleep for work, for Netflix, for scrolling. They think they'll catch up on the weekend. But metabolic damage doesn't wait for the weekend. Every night of poor sleep is a deposit in your visceral fat account. If you want to shrink visceral fat fast, protect your sleep like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. 7 to 9 hours, cool dark room, no screens an hour before bed, consistent bedtime. These aren't luxuries. They're fat loss strategies. Let's end with the long-term play. The one that doesn't just shrink visceral fat but keeps it from coming back. Muscle tissue is your metabolic armor. Here's the mechanism. Muscle is the largest consumer of glucose in your body. When you have more muscle, your body can handle carbohydrates without massive insulin spikes. You become metabolically flexible, able to burn fat when food isn't available and burn glucose when it is. But here's what most people don't realize. You don't need to become a bodybuilder. You don't need to spend hours in the gym. Research shows that even modest increases in muscle mass significantly reduce visceral fat accumulation. A study in the Obesity Journal found that for every 10% increase in skeletal muscle index, there was a corresponding 11% reduction in visceral fat area. That's a remarkable return on investment. And here's the beautiful part. Resistance training doesn't just burn calories during the workout. It creates something called excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. Metabolism stays elevated for hours afterward. Your muscles are hungry for repair. They're pulling glucose from your blood. They're creating an environment where visceral fat simply cannot thrive. Most people get this wrong. They do endless cardio, thinking that burns the most fat, and while cardio has benefits, it doesn't build the metabolic machinery that keeps fat off long term. 2 to 3 resistance sessions per week, bodyweight exercises, bands, weights, whatever you have access to, will transform your metabolic landscape. Think of muscle as your body's glucose sponge. The more sponge you have, the less glucose overflows into fat storage. The less insulin you need, the less inflammation you produce. It's a virtuous cycle. If you're new to resistance training, start simple. Squats, push-ups, rows, lunges. 2 or 3 sets, 2 or 3 times a week. Progress gradually. Your body will adapt. Your visceral fat will shrink. And you'll keep it off. Before we wrap up, let me clear up some dangerous myths that keep people stuck. You can target belly fat with crunches and sit-ups. Fact, spot reduction is largely a myth. Crunches strengthen your abdominal muscles, but they don't selectively burn the fat covering them. Visceral fat responds to hormonal and metabolic changes, not specific exercises. You need to do extreme cardio to lose visceral fat. Fact, while exercise helps, research consistently shows that diet and metabolic interventions have a far greater impact on visceral fat than exercise alone. A 15-minute walk after meals beats an hour of jogging if your diet is wrong. Visceral fat only affects overweight people. Fact, as I mentioned earlier, TOFI, thin outside, fat inside, is real and dangerous. Your waist circumference and metabolic markers tell the real story, not your clothing size. Once visceral fat is gone, you're safe forever. Fact, visceral fat can return quickly if you return to the habits that created it. This is why building muscle, maintaining insulin sensitivity, and keeping inflammation low are lifelong practices, not one-time fixes. Let me put this all together for you. If you want to shrink visceral fat as fast as science allows, here's your daily playbook. Morning. Apply black seed oil to your abdomen. Massage for 3 to 5 minutes. Break your fast with protein, healthy fats, and fiber. No liquid sugar. Move your body, walk, stretch, or do light activity. Throughout the day, eat within an 8-hour window. Walk 10 to 15 minutes after each meal. Stay hydrated. Water, black coffee, unsweetened tea only. Include resistance training 2 to 3 times per week. Evening. Apply black seed oil again before bed. Prioritize 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. No screens an hour before bed. This isn't complicated, but it is precise. And it works because it attacks visceral fat from every biological angle. Insulin signaling, inflammation, circulation, sleep hormones, and muscle metabolism. Here's the timeline most people experience. Week 1 to 2, you may notice less bloating, better energy, more stable hunger. The scale might not move much, but your clothes may feel looser. Week 3 to 4, waist circumference starts decreasing. Sleep improves. Post-meal crashes disappear. Week 6 to 8, significant visible changes in abdominal profile. Blood markers like fasting insulin and triglycerides often improve. Month 3 and beyond, sustained fat loss, improved metabolic flexibility, and a dramatically reduced risk of the diseases visceral fat causes. Remember, visceral fat is metabolically active. It wants to leave. You're not fighting your body. You're finally giving it the signals it's been waiting for. Let's be real for a moment. That hard, round belly isn't just about how you look. It's a message from your body. It's saying, the signals are wrong. The inflammation is too high. The insulin switch is stuck. And for too long, we've been told to just eat less and exercise more, as if willpower could outsmart biology. It can't. But biology can work for you when you understand it. Visceral fat isn't stubborn. It's responsive. It grew because of specific signals, and it will shrink when those signals change. Time-restricted eating, 0 liquid sugar, post-meal walks, black seed oil application, deep sleep, resistance training. These aren't random tips. They're a coordinated biological strategy. Most people get this wrong. They try one thing at a time. They give up too soon. They expect overnight results from years of metabolic damage. But if you stack these strategies, if you commit to just 4 weeks of this protocol, you'll see changes that surprise you. Not just in the mirror, in your energy, your sleep, your mood, your blood work. Your body wants to heal. It wants to burn that internal fire out. It wants to release the fat that's been suffocating your organs. You just have to give it the right environment. If this video gave you clarity, if you finally feel like you have a real plan, hit that like button. Subscribe for more science-backed health strategies without the fluff. And drop a comment. Which of these 6 insights are you going to start with today? I read every single one. Your visceral fat didn't appear overnight, but it can start disappearing faster than you think. I'm Dr. Leonid Kim. Take care of your health.